And then she comes in. You know, I went to down there and then I.
Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you.
Welcome to Murder on the Beach and the Elaine Viets book signing. Elaine was one of the very, not the first, but almost the first author I had for a book signing when I first opened the store in 1996.
Wow.
So, and I believe she was here in 97, early 97, maybe, I think. That was the Francesca Bierling series. So for those of you who are really true aficionados of Elaine's work. And she brought in the plastic flamingos and everything, I remember. I still have a picture of her setting up the flamingos. And darn, I should have looked that up.
No,
Don't put it on the screen here. Yeah, but Elaine, think of it, we were 20 years younger. We look good. Anyway, so it's wonderful to have Elaine back again. Elaine has returned to those hard-boiled roots when she did the Francisca Bierling series with this new series, Angela Richmond. Well, I guess it's not so new anymore, but it's Angela Richmond, Death Investigator. Life Without Parole is the latest, following on from Death Grip, A Star is Born, Fire and Ashes, and Brainstorm, and also the novella Ice Blonde. Elaine has over 34 best-selling mysteries in 4 series. She started writing when she was 3. A St. Louis native, Elaine took the medico-legal death investigator training course for forensic professionals at St. Louis University. She has won the Agatha Award, the Anthony Award, and the Lefty Award. Elaine lives in Fort Lauderdale with her husband. Please welcome Elaine Viets.
Here we go. Thank you.
Well, I am so glad to be here. This is my first signing since the lockdown. So it's just great to be out in public again and see your faces. So thank you so much. And for all you Zoomers, I'm sorry you're at home, but thanks for stopping by. Life Without Parole is my 7th Angela Richmond mystery, and it begins this way. 4 in the morning, I was wrapped in the arms of my lover, sleeping the sleep of the satisfied, when my work cell phone rang. Damn, somebody was dead, probably murdered. Why couldn't people die at a decent hour? And death investigator Angela Richmond is off to work, where she learns that Choteau Forest's wealthy residents are being targeted by the ghost burglars, who are killing the rich in their marble mansions. Publishers Weekly calls Life Without Parole's colorful characters match the crafty plot twists. My mother didn't write that either. I took a break from my dead-end job mysteries to write about a real dead-end job, which is Death Investigator. And the Angela Richmond series is set in mythical Choteau County, which is a 10-square-mile pocket of white privilege near St. Louis. I lived in St. Louis for many years, and I covered a lot of stories in St. Louis County that could not be in the newspaper, mainly because the publisher lived there. I think one of my favorites was if they were having parties with kids and the kids were drinking, the cops would park their cars. You know, in my section of the town, the cops would pull you over and call your parents.
Yep.
So it was a totally different world. Death investigators are kind of like forensic paralegals. They're trained, but they don't have medical degrees. And so Angela works for the Choteau County Medical Investigator, And she investigates all the unexpected and unexplained deaths, accidents, murders, suicides, and she's responsible for the dead person. The police handle the scene, everything but the body. And to make sure that Angela had the most accurate forensics, I went back to college and took the medical legal death investigators training course, which was given by St. Louis University School of Medicine. And death investigators started in my hometown of St. Louis back in 1978 because there was a shortage of forensic pathologists. Now, in this book, Chouteau Forest wealthy are being targeted by the ghost burglars, and they've carried out 12 burglaries in 2 weeks. So far, there's been no bloodshed until Tom Lockridge is murdered inside his marble mansion during the latest raid. And Angela, the death investigator, is called to assess the scene and the body. And as they investigate, she's with her favorite detective, who's Jace Budowitz. Jace becomes obsessed with proving that the ghost burglars were not involved with the murder. He really thinks that the killer is the dead man's wife, Cynthia. Now, Cynthia is, she's 30 years younger than her husband. She's very pretty. She spends all of his money. And and also she's just had an affair with the family lawyer. Now, there's also Tom's long-suffering daughter and his housekeeper who loves to talk about everything. And everybody in this book is keeping secrets. Now, one of the things in this book is I talk about the opioid crisis, and I'm sure you know that that is a serious, serious issue. So we have a homemaker who lives in Chouteau Forest, and she dies of an overdose, and she has a little girl. And in fact, that's how she got hooked on opioids. She had a back problem after the birth of her child, and the doctor gave her opioids. And when she couldn't get any more, she started going to various places she shouldn't to buy them. And she starts stashing them everywhere. Now, I don't know about you, but I guess I'm kind of dumb. I started doing my research about stash safes. And I am amazed at the things you can buy to hide your stash. You can get a nice can of Del Monte sliced peaches and keep it in there. You can get Coca-Cola cans, deodorant sticks, chapstick. Now, Pringles is really special because you keep your stash at the bottom, but at the top, to fool your mom, you can actually have Pringles potato chips. And I think the one that's really off the wall is you can buy a copy of Alice in Wonderland and put your stash in the middle on chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole. And by the way, most of these are available at your friendly Walmart. But anyway, I didn't know about any of this stuff. I was kind of a boring kid. Now, another thing that I learned about this is that Angela and the tech who's doing the processing, they have to go on an Easter egg hunt and look for all the stash. And it's all over this house. It's a 7-bedroom house, so it can be in dozens of places. And the kitchen, about half the cans in the kitchen, from creamed corn to a loaf of bread, are for stashes. So they're going through everything bit by bit. And while they're looking, Angela says, "Hey, why don't they have the sniffer dogs in here?" And the tech says, "Oh, because they found fentanyl here, and it's highly poisonous to dogs. So a couple of sniffer dogs in Florida got sick searching for fentanyl during a bust. And so sniffer dogs are not allowed in any fentanyl searches. It's too dangerous." but humans are okay because there are a lot more of them and they're a lot cheaper. So that was, that's some of the things that I worked on, and I really enjoyed writing this book. And I have a friend who's a cop. He's actually a retired detective. And whenever I need help, I email him and I go, Bob, do I have enough for an arrest? And he'll say, not unless you do this, this, and this, and just in time for me to rewrite my story. But I wanted to read you a little bit about the opening. And I started about it being 4 in the morning, and Angela's saying, why didn't people die at a decent hour? And so she gently pries herself from her boyfriend Chris Ferretti's arms and forces herself awake. And officially she's been on call since midnight, but she hoped everybody would stay alive. So she scooted across the warm bed to check the phone's display, and there was the detective, Jace Budowitz. He's a good guy. And she flipped on the bathroom light and she answered the phone and she said, what's happening? And he said, we got a bad one, Angela. Tom Lockridge is dead, 3 shots to the head. And I couldn't help wincing when he said that. And he said, the ghost burglars have turned deadly. Well, they were bound to start shooting soon, I said. Did they kill Tom's wife? No, Cynthia's okay. She claims she was on the other side of the house. And I thought, claims. Sounds like Jace didn't believe her. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. So I hung up, yawned, stretched, and turned on the shower. Cold water first to shock me awake, followed by soothing warm water. Now, Tom's death would have a big impact on Choteau County's social life. Tom was 66, and his sexy wife was 36 years younger. Tom and Cynthia were the closest to stodgy Choteau County had to a jet set, and gossip swirled around them. I'd heard that in the summer, Tom's plane, loaded with friends, flew to his house at the Lake of the Ozarks, about 175 miles away in the Ozark Mountains. From there, the party piled into Tom's boat and headed for the lake's Party Cove, a floating sin spot notorious for public sex, drugs, and nude sailing. I'm not making this up. There actually is a Party Cove in the Lake of the Ozarks. And the local paper condemned it as a giant petri dish of debauchery. Now, Cynthia and her free-thinking friends fostered the colorful gossip. Rumors said that they drank, drugged, and hosted onboard bacchanals. Until he met Cynthia, Thomas J. Lockridge, had been a hard-working contractor. He still worked hard, but now he partied harder. In the winter, Tom and Cynthia flew their party pals to Telluride, Colorado, for skiing and lots of powder. And I don't mean snow. Tom was generous, and not only to his friends. He was a major donor to every local charity and was frequently photographed in a penguin suit, presenting a hefty check to a smiling sequined socialite. And now he was dead. So that's how the story begins. And I hope that you'll enjoy it. Can I answer any questions for you? Yeah, okay.
Elaine, I just finished it, and I love the line about how all these rich Choteau forest men have their monograms all over everything, especially their pajamas, in case they forget who they are during the night.
Now, Kay used to live in a version of Choteau Forest. Why do they monogram everything? You have no idea.
But I didn't think about them forgetting who they were when they were asleep.
Okay.
Great line.
That was a great line. I love that.
Yes, in the back.
How long does it take you to write a book? How many drafts do you usually go through until it's ready to give to your publisher?
Okay. My publisher is in London. I write for Severin House. So this book was first published in the UK. And my editor is 12 years old. His name is Carl. And usually I go through one draft, but as I write it, my husband reads it, and he was my English teacher. And he's a very good reader, although he keeps wanting me to throw in more bodies. He keeps saying, it kind of sags here. You want to shoot somebody. And I try to explain him that's not how the novel's supposed to work, but I take his advice that it's sagging a little. But he's very good. And so I started this book in July. And I worked on it sort of lackadaisically until about September. And then I said goodbye to all my friends and I stayed home and I wrote. And I don't think I've been out to any place but the gym. And it's due this Tuesday. So my new book is due this Tuesday. And it's called The Man Who Was Late for His Own Funeral.
Good title.
And it's about something that I learned in death investigator school, which is that there are death investigations that go bad. And when they do, the wrong person is buried. And so more than once, someone has shown up at their funeral. And this idea has always fascinated me. You know, what is it? And so that's what I wrote about, the man who was late for his own funeral.
Is that a freestanding book or is it?
It's another Angela one.
Okay.
Mhm. So she gets to investigate his death for just once.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Stacy.
Braidwell would like to know how you choose your restaurants that you write about.
How do I choose them? Do I like to eat there? And I like to eat at most places, but I try to get things that my readers will like. One of them complained about, I put in my favorite Chinese restaurant and I got a note from someone and said, that restaurant is a hole in the wall. And I wrote her back and said, yes, that's why the food is so good. But yeah, it's kind of what are my favorite restaurants. Yes.
So why do you have to publish it in the UK? And is it different, the book in the UK? You change it a little bit, the writing, the style, or is it identical to the one in the
It's identical. And the UK publisher came after me. He was a fan of my book, my writing, and he asked if I would write for them. And I said, sure. The only thing that's different is if you look at the quote marks, British quote marks are single quote marks, and Americans use double. So you'll see single quote marks throughout. And it took me a while to adjust my brain to that, but otherwise it's okay. I occasionally have problems when they have trouble with an Americanism. I said that someone was in high cotton. And they didn't know what that meant, but
I don't know what
most
that
of
means.
it they did. Yes, Stacy?
the Coronado based on the apartment?
Yes, it is. It's based on the real apartment that we stayed at, actually that my friend Kay stayed at when we first moved to Florida. And it was a wonderful place. It was off of Las Olas. What was it, Kay?
Hendricks Island.
Hendricks Isle. Back before
Oh,
Hendricks
yes.
Isle became really, really expensive. It had these great little apartments, and Kay stayed there, and a lot of her boater friends were there, and they would meet at sunset for a drink at the end of the day, and they were nice enough to include us, and it was really fun. And now I don't think we can afford to set foot on Hendricks Isle, but that was the old Florida, and we really enjoyed it. It was like a little family there. Yeah,
Can I tell them a little story?
uh,
So Elaine said, I was in my apartment and she she and some friends, women friends came in and she said, I'm going to write a new series. And I said, oh, where is it going to be set? She said, here. I said, here in Florida? She said, yes, here. And I said, here in Fort Lauderdale? And she said, yes, here. And I said, here on Las Olas? And she said, yes, here. And I said, here in this apartment? And she said, they won't know it's you. She's going to be 6 feet tall with dark hair.
Yeah.
You have to be careful what you say around the name. It'll end up in a book.
Well, Kay had this incredible neighbor. He was gorgeous. I mean, unbelievable, just stupefying. And so, you know, we all just sort of drooled over him. And then we found out that,
Was he straight?
oh, he was straight. Yeah, he
Dumb
was
as a rock, but straight.
Yes. You can't have beauty and brains always.
Yes.
But he was terribly scenic. And then later on, we also found out he beat up his girlfriend. So he lost a lot of his good looks at that point. Yes.
You said about your new book, you were always wondering how it feels like to be buried but still alive.
Mhm.
So that's why you wrote the book. So did you find somebody interview, or how did you kind of get the feeling? Or did you just?
Oh, for that one, it was based on an old case that took place in the 70s of a man who was, he was wrongly identified as dead. So they buried the wrong dead person. He wasn't buried.
Yeah.
And then he showed up at what was supposed to be his funeral, very much alive.
So, but you didn't interview
No, no.
that, so you just got it on a story because you said you want to capture the feeling of a person that came to his own funeral.
Mhm. Now, I will tell you, some of you know I had a series of strokes about 13 years ago. And the word got out at first that I was dead. And so the Mystery Writers of America put up an obituary for me online. And I got to read it. And what's really funny is 2 weeks ago, before that, I'd written this blog and I'd made fun of what I call them male romance novels. They're guys' books, you know, and anyway, I made fun of the guys and guys don't like that. And so they just had this flame war on the blog. They hated me. I was awful. I was every word you could think of. Well, as soon as I was dead, supposedly, I went back and read, and the same people who said how awful I was were writing, oh, what a loss to the mystery world. So it was kind of a sneak preview, you know?
They won't believe me.
Well, my poor husband, I mean, he went through a really rough time then. And when I finally came home, he was so scared. He would wake me up every single night. And I'd go, he'd say, Elaine, he'd go, what? He'd say, are you okay? You're too quiet. You're sleeping. I said, yeah, I'm fine. So at the end of the month, he wakes me up again. And I said, what? And he goes, you're snoring. And I said, be happy. Dead people don't snore.
That's a good answer.
So, do we have any other questions? Yes.
I was wondering what drew you to this genre.
Mysteries?
Yeah.
I've loved reading mysteries. I got my mother's set of Nancy Drews. Yes,
Nancy
yes, Nancy Drew fans here. They were the redback Nancy Drews.
Yeah.
And I love those books. And Nancy had what she called a roadster. And I didn't know what that was, but I thought it was kind of like a Miata. But you know, the cool thing about Nancy is she didn't have a mother, and when you're a teenage girl, that sounds like a really good deal. And her father adored her and gave her a car. And before she went out sleuthing, she always powdered her nose. It seemed like a good role model. Anyway, I really liked that. And from that, I graduated to Agatha Christie and various other mysteries. And I also read, as I was a kid, a lot of books I wasn't supposed to. My parents were very, very Catholic. And so I got a Bible and I took the cover off. And then I would put all of the books that I wasn't supposed to read in the Bible.
Elaine, did you ever, when you're reading Nancy Drew, go looking for mysteries in your neighborhood?
No, but I was deeply impressed by the fact that Nancy lived in Brentwood and I lived in St. Louis, which had a Brentwood too. So never mind, there was a Brentwood in every city.
My friends and I used to go looking for mysteries, and we'd see like a brick that was out of place but buried, and we'd make up a story behind it. And we looked everywhere for mysteries because we loved Nancy so much. We wanted to be just like her.
Yes, we all did. The closest I came to a mystery was I took my little brother, who was 4 years younger than me, to the store. And the one thing my mother said was never go in the alley. Don't take the shortcut in the alley. So we were supposed to pick up a gallon of milk. And what did I do? I took the shortcut in the alley. And this guy came out from behind a dumpster and he took my little brother's hand and he said, "Come near, little boy." And I said, "No, you can't have him." And I yanked him back. And the guy started laughing. And I always wondered what was going on there. Was he trying to scare me? I don't think I could have really scared off a creep, but that was one of the stranger mysteries I encountered.
How old were you?
I was 9, my little brother was 7. Other questions? Yes.
Your books always have an element of humor as well as murder.
Yes.
Why?
I'm kind of hopeless that way. Sort of twisted. Now Sarah sitting in the middle there. Sarah used to work for me when she was in high school. She did my filing and she was very good. And she thought I was a tremendous cook. Because I made pizza pockets.
And I did not get it home. I wouldn't buy for it.
So I had a reputation as an incredible cook, Miss Sarah.
It still is maintained today. Nobody's ever touched it. But I've never bought any pizza box to this day. To this day.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
Do the restaurants ever complain that you've mentioned them by name?
No, but I never have anything bad happen at a restaurant. Nobody dies.
And nobody gets food poisoning?
Nobody gets food poisoning. No, that's lawsuit city.
Yeah.
So that I don't do. But no, the restaurants are praiseworthy. So, and I'm careful to choose restaurants that are good. Although one of my favorite restaurants, which I did not include, was on the beach in Hollywood, and I'm in the ladies' room, and this gigantic roach goes right across the floor. And so I go out and I said to the maitre d', "There's an enormous roach in the ladies' room." And he goes, "Is it a big one or a little one?" And I said, "It's a big one." And he said, "Oh, that's okay. Those aren't our roaches." I don't know what his roaches were.
Maybe they were monogrammed or something.
I don't know. That is the last time I ate there, and it has not appeared in any book. Okay. Yes.
I
someone that's asking me about Marjorie. And who she's based on and who's that person like in real life.
Well, Marjorie is actually Marjorie Flax, and she's a friend who lives in New York. And she's nothing like the Marjorie in the book. The Marjorie in the book is sort of like she's kind of like the mother I'd like to have had. And I think she's like the mother everyone would like to have. She's funny, she's convenient, she never has to go to the doctor, you know, she never complains, she can hold her liquor, you know, all those things you want mom to do. So that's kind of who she is. She's a fantasy figure. Yes.
So the wealthy person that you kill off in the
Mhm.
book, is that somebody also in real life?
No. No, when I lived in St. Louis, I had to cover a lot of society parties, which I disliked a lot. So there's a long list of people that I've killed off that resemble no one, living or dead. But they were really snotty. Yes.
Are you still working on that
Job
jobs?
series?
Yeah.
No, I'm letting that go for a while. I want to concentrate on Angela for a bit, but we'll see. Yes.
You must have a thing in your past for old men who have very, very young wives. Did you do it in another book before as well?
I did it in a lot of books, but remember, we're here in Florida. I mean, they're all old men with very, very young wives.
And they all die in your books.
Well, that's wishful thinking on the part of the wife. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I'll be glad to sign your book.
You want to sit and sign your books?
Yes.
Or stand?
I'll sit.
Thanks for coming. I'll see you soon.
And who should I make it out to? Linda. On you do. Yes. One of your biggest fans.